Good evening and welcome to the Ann Arbor District Library on AADL TV. Thanks for tuning in for this presentation by Rochelle Riley, essayist, journalist, and author of the new book, That They Lived, 20 African Americans Who Changed the World. In just a moment, Rochelle will introduce us to this latest work, which is now available for requests on aadl.org. Then on Friday, February 12th at 6 p.m., tune in for a live interview and community Q&A session with Rochelle Riley here on AADL TV. If you enjoy this program, check out aadl.org/events for a complete list of our scheduled programming.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be with you today. I'm Rochelle Riley. I'm the Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Detroit and a former newspaper columnist at the Detroit Free Press. But what I do now, more than anything, is to pay attention to what's going on in our country. As a columnist, I did that for a living. As an American and a mom, I do that all the time. And one of the things that makes me really think that we can make a difference in America and do what we need to do is that we have to teach our children, and we have to change the way that we interact with each other. And that's one of the reasons I decided to do the book called That They Lived, African Americans Who Changed the World. About 4 years ago, I was tooling around online on Twitter, which I'm on all day, and Facebook, and I found amazing photographs of a little girl dressed as famous and important African-American women. They were stunning photographs that she fully captured and embodied what these women were, what they looked like. I knew the women, I recognized them. I didn't know that everybody else would. I went ahead with life, didn't pay any more attention, but a year later, this young mom outside of Seattle did it again with her little girl with these photos, and I had to talk to her. So I called up Christy Smith-Jones and I said, these are amazing photographs. What made you do this? And she said, it's a way for me to teach my daughter about Black history and about how important it is that we learn about all of those ancestors that we have and all of those people in the decades before this one who did amazing things, who did amazing accomplishments despite the beginnings that they had in this country. So I told her, you know, the pictures are amazing, and sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words, but I think these pictures deserve 1,000 words. I think that I'd like to write inspirational biographical essays to go along with them so that people can see the photos of your little Lola, but also learn about the women behind them. She was flabbergasted. She said, oh, I don't know if, this is good enough for something like that. And I said, of course they are. So I got in a car. I got on a plane and I flew to Seattle, and I got in a car and I drove to Kent, and I met with her and with Lola and Lola's sister and her mom and convinced her that we should do this book. And I said, we can do lots of these books. We can do one with scientists. We can do one with sports stars. We can do one with all of the different African Americans who have achieved and done great, great work in America, who may not be known, some who are absolutely known, and some who should be known. And she said, oh no, I'm only doing this one book. And I thought, oh gosh, well, if you're only going to do one, then we can't just leave it with the girls. We have to do something to inspire our little boys. So would you do the same things with Lola that you did? Would you do that with a young man? And she said, well, we'll have to find a boy. And I said, I've got a little boy. So I flew to Dallas and I got my grandson, Caleb, and we flew back, and we had a whole 4-day photo shoot where she turned him into Frederick Douglass and Dr. Martin Luther King and Jackie Robinson and Muhammad Ali. And it was an interesting photo shoot. We would shoot for an hour and then he'd get to play Fortnite shoot for a half an hour and then he'd get to play Fortnite for a half an hour. But what we wound up with was an amazing collection of photographs so that, quite frankly, if you want to know what Katherine Johnson was like before she was let me get that in the right place. Before she was the famous person who helped send men to the moon, she was a little girl who was brilliant. And I'll read you just a little bit from the essay about Katherine Johnson. Creola Catherine Coleman would grow up to be a brilliant mathematician whose work as a human computer helped NASA send a man into space. That is not surprising, since when Catherine was 10 years old, she was smart enough to begin high school when her friends were still in elementary classes. Every essay begins that way, with what these kids were doing between the ages of 9 and 15 and what they grew up to be. And our goal with the book is to teach children of all ages and colors and sizes, and their families and parents and senators and lawyers and police officers and everyone, that every important person, every famous person was once a child. So I'm thrilled to present That They Lived, African Americans Who Changed the World. We are hoping that we not only change the world, but change the way that African Americans are seen in this country, because every famous person was once a child. And there you've got Thurgood Marshall, Rosa Parks, and W.E.B. Du Bois. And these 21 folks who every child should know, and a lot of children know, and who are presented regularly during Black History Month, were real people who led real lives and had amazing moments that helped set their path. And I want them to be more than posters during Black History Month. I want them to be real, to inspire children to be their best selves when they grow up. So thank you to the Ann Arbor Public Library. Thank you to Wayne State University Press, which published this book, as they did with my last book, The Burden, African Americans and the Enduring Impact of Slavery. I think that somehow if we had a better sense of what those two things did, that confluence of former enslavement and achievement, people would see African Americans differently. We wouldn't have some of the racial conflict that we have in this country. We'd get to know each other better. We'd see that we have more in common than we don't, so that we start celebrating Black history every month instead of just Black History Month. But for this Black History Month, please pick up a copy of That They Lived so that you can learn some of the childhood of some of the most famous African Americans you already know. And pick up a copy of The Burden if you want to understand what African American life is like in the US and why we can make it better. Thank you so much. I'm Rochelle Riley, and it's been my pleasure.